Alright, let's see what blueprint crafting looks like, then I'll show you how to make it. So, the way it works is you'll head to a crafting station, select the craft option, click the blueprint of the item you want to make, and if you have all the materials listed, you'll craft that item. Nice! Now, let me show you how to make it all work. First, let's add 5 to our items, and we'll start with the blueprints. For the first one, we'll do blueprint dragon plate. Set it to key item, consume no, scope none, occasion only from the menu. To be a bit time efficient, let's just copy and paste this blueprint, but change the name to Mithril Axe. Now we'll make the crafting materials. Add an item called Dragon Scale, Steel Ingot, and Mithril Ingot. The item settings for these can be whatever you'd like. As a recommendation, when you make your blueprint items, make sure they're all next to each other in this item list. This is so when you go to the crafting station, they'll all be next to each other there too. That will make it look a bit more organized, and you won't have to scroll through all of your key items just to find the blueprint you're looking for. So, preferably, you should make all your blueprints, then make the common event for your blueprint bench. Speaking of which, now we can head over to the common events. We'll only be using one common event, and we'll call it Blueprint Station. Make sure to keep the trigger as none. The first thing to add is a label A, and then a text saying Blueprint Bench. Then put in a show choices, craft, and leave. We can keep leave blank. Under craft, add a text that says select blueprint. If you're using an older version of RPG Maker, add a select key item. And if you're using a newer version, add select item and set it to key items. For the variable, choose one you haven't used yet and call it blueprint selection. Head back to the item tab and remember what item IDs your blueprints are. Now we can go to the common event, add a conditional branch, variable, blueprint selection, set, then the dragon plate blueprint item ID. Do not check the do not apply box. Copy and paste this conditional branch until you have 3. Change the second one to the Mithril Axe blueprint item ID, the third one to 0, and also for the third one, check the do not apply box. The 0 means we backed out of selecting an item, so above the else, put a jump to label A to go back to the beginning of this menu. Under the else is what will happen if you select an item that isn't a blueprint, so we'll put a text saying, not a blueprint. Then add a jump to label A. Back under the conditional branch for the dragon plate armor, add a text that says craft dragon plate armor. Required items, 5 dragon scales, 5 steel ingots. Then add a show choices, yes and no. Under yes, we'll add a check to see if you have the correct amount of items. Select control variables, pick one you haven't used yet, and call it item 1 amount check. Then select set, game data, item, dragon scale. Copy and paste as control variables. Change the variable to one you haven't used yet, and call it item 2 amount check. And change the game data item to steel ingot. This will set those variables equal to how many of those items you have on your character. Then we'll add some conditional branches to check if we have the required amount. Under that last control variables, add a conditional branch, variable, item 1 amount check, greater than or equal to 5. Make sure you check the do not apply box. Under else, add a text saying cannot craft. Not enough dragon scales. Then add a jump to label A. Copy and paste this conditional branch into itself. Change the variable to item 2 amount check. And under else, change the text to steel ingots. Everything above the else will mean that we have all the correct items. So let's add a change items, dragon scale, decrease 5. Add another change items, steel ingot, decrease 5. Add a change armor, dragon plate, increase 1. Then we can add a couple sound effects, letting the player know that they crafted the item. I'll add a hammer sound effect. Then a weight 20. The hammer sound effect again. Add a weight 60. Then a music effect of getting an item. After that, add a text saying crafted dragon plate armor. Then a jump to label A. That blueprint is now done, so let's make another one. We can copy the text saying craft dragon plate armor and paste it inside the conditional branch for the blueprint selection of the mithril axe. Change the text to mithril axe weapon and the required items to mithril ingots. Then add a show choices, yes and no. Under yes, add a control variables, item 1 amount check, set, game data, item, mithril ingot. Scroll up to the blueprint selection conditional branch above this one. Copy the innermost conditional branch and paste it below the control variables item 1 amount check for the mithril ingot. Edit the change items to mithril ingot. Delete the second change items and change armor. Then add a change weapons, mithril axe. Increase 1. Change the text below to mithril axe weapon. And the text below that to mithril ingots. And that's it. Make sure you click apply. Before we test it out, let me show you how to add your own blueprints. Back on the item tab, when you make your own, I would recommend to copy and paste one of the other blueprints, just so all the settings will save, and then just change the name to whatever you're making. On the Common Events tab, if you want to have a blueprint that needs more than 2 different materials, just create as many item amount check variables as you need, and put the same amount of conditional branches below that, all chaining together. So for example, if you wanted a blueprint to need 4 different materials, you would have item 1 amount check, item 2 amount check, item 3 amount check, and item 4 amount check. Then below that, you'd have 4 conditional branches all inside each other with the 1, 2, 3, and 4 check. Underneath all of the else statements, add a text saying you do not have enough items, then a jump to label A. And in the innermost conditional branch, right at the top, you would add the change items depending on what you need to craft that item, the sound effects, the text saying you crafted the item, and a jump to label A after that. This next step is very important. When adding the conditional branches, make sure they are all above the conditional branch that has the blueprint selection equal to 0. If you don't, everything put below that will be ignored. One more step that I almost forgot. Under no, for all the show choices, make sure you put a jump to label A. Now, to test it out yourself, add an event, any graphic you'd like. Add a call common event, blueprint station. Add another event, any graphic. Change items. One of the blueprints, increase 1. Copy and paste the change item, changing it to the other blueprint. Then make a third event, any graphic. Change items. One of the materials, increase 1. Copy and paste the change items till you have 3, then change them to the other materials. Now, every time you talk to this person, you'll get 1 of each item, So you'll be able to test out what happens when you have enough items and when you don't have enough items to craft. And that is the end of the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it, and I'll catch you in the next one.